Hi everyone, my name is Zoe Baker. I am a graduating senior this year in just a couple weeks, and I'm graduating with a degree in industrial engineering. And I'm originally from Indiana. I'm from the Carmel area. I grew up Protestant, and I grew up going to church every weekend. My family was like the kind of family where I couldn't have a sleepover at another friend's house on Saturday night because I had church in the morning, but they could have a sleepover at our house because they could come to church with us. So that was kind of how I grew up with. And I think early in my life, I kind of questioned a few teachings of the church, and I would have a lot of these thoughts of like, how did this Bible get here, and all of these things that weren't necessarily taught, and they weren't necessarily hidden. It was just kind of something that was never talked about. And I always kind of felt like I never had the full vision of the truth, and that eventually led me at one point in my life to totally turn away from God, especially later in high school. Also kind of driven by some family situations I had growing up. And when I, started to question again and started to discern coming back to Christ, it was actually a Catholic, his name's Sam Wadlington, he's a senior as well, that really introduced me to the faith. And I would say that really drew me to the Catholic faith was just how intellectual it was. I struggled a lot growing up with understanding how science and religion could come together. I almost kind of felt like they had to be separate. And what I do love about the Catholic faith is that it's blended together perfectly, and what science can't explain, the church can, right? And the church has a teaching for everything. You can't find any loopholes. Trust me, I tried. And yeah, that really just kind of, once I got that first little bite and I kind of was convinced, it just went all rolling downhill from there. And everything started to make sense, looking at the Bible in the eyes of understanding the Eucharist, all that stuff. It got really interesting for me. So I'd say my first memorable experience was when my friend Sam finally convinced me to go, and I went. And mind you, as a non-Catholic, I think that Mass can be really intimidating. The church I went to was a very casual church. We called it a service, and people wore jeans and things like that. And it was just a very different experience for me. So I was really nervous to go. And when I went there, at first, again, like there's some things that I was kind of like, the little things that kind of threw me off. I was like, oh, by genuflect, or, I sign of the cross, all that stuff. But once I got past sort of that initial, like, oh, this is new, I don't know, I was truly just in awe. I mean, I had never seen any form of worship like that. I felt like I had actually seen true worship. And at the time, I didn't even really fully understand the teachings. One memory I will mention is that when I was going up for communion, I knew I had to cross my arms over my chest and everything. But for some reason, and I have had a lot of almost spiritual experiences like this in my life, like when I went before the priest and before the body of Christ, I like fully kneeled down to take the blessing from the priest, which is obviously a little bit unconventional. And it wasn't necessarily like in my head, I was like, oh, I need to do that. It was just like my body was fully just like pulled down. And then the priest is kind of like, okay, you can get up now. I was so embarrassed at first. I mean, just horribly embarrassed. I was like, oh, what am I doing? And after a lot of thought and prayer, I was like, I was like coming home, like kneeling before God. I had finally like found my home. And I, at the time, again, didn't fully understand what the Eucharist meant, but almost like the childlike faith I had in that moment of still kneeling before it and offering that reverence is just truly beautiful. So yeah, I had an amazing first experience. Only got better from there. And now I think I could officially say that I think I know all the little things of going to Mass. So, but I learn new ones every day. So there were two moments. The first moment was when I was just intellectually convinced. That's what came first for me. So I eventually had asked enough questions, gotten enough great answers, done enough digging, listened to enough podcasts where it wasn't, oh, this is cool, like, oh, like interesting teaching. And it became, okay, I think I need to do something about this. I think I need to explore the spiritual side, because that was the side that was very foreign to me. I mean, the last time I had prayed, when I like fully thought about doing something about it, had been like 3 or 4 years, a really, really long time. And so the intellectual side came first. And then I think the moment where I decided to become Catholic, it was when I met with a Catholic priest the first time, Father Peter, and the conversation just went exceptionally well. I basically just told him my story, and he was incredible and offered great advice. And I think in that moment, it was the first time I really felt like I actually encountered Christ and had a deeper spiritual connection to him. When I was younger growing up and I was Presbyterian, I think I thought I had that connection with Christ, but later in my life, it came to that point where, from that moment, I started prayer really intentionally, and I saw the blessings and I saw changes in my life physically in front of me. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, I need to do something about this. And then I think the faith only just grew and got further on fire, joining Ministry of the Baptized and having that experience, really discerning the teachings and getting to know other Catholics as well. What brought me to St. Tom's was just because it was convenient, to be fully transparent. It was right by my house. It's where all the students go. But I think what really kept me here was the staff in the clergy and how intelligent they are, and just how willing everyone is to answer my questions, how encouraged I was to answer my questions. I think that, the decision to stick around and also get really involved kind of came from just the people that I encountered. And I think that it's a really special and unique community. I was very lucky. Even though it was only my senior year, I really got to experience it. I wish it was longer. I've been really cherishing the moments I've had here, because when I move and when I graduate, things might be different. So I really enjoyed my OCIA experience going through Ministry of the Baptized. And how it worked for us is we just had a 2-hour-long class once a week. And I really enjoyed it for a few reasons. The first reason was just because I met a lot of great people. James, who directs the program, was always ready to answer all my questions. And I also met great friends through the program who were also involved. And the next thing that I really enjoyed about it is that I felt like I was getting a very, very valuable education. I mean, even if there were a bunch of people in my class as well when I joined the class, I was fully set on getting confirmed, but there were quite a few people in the class too who were there just to discern. And so it created a really good environment, because there's a lot of sometimes difference of opinions, and you can kind of understand and really boil down to what the core teachings of the church are, what the core teachings are that you're kind of obligated to understand and know, but also about the smaller things and things like that. So we learned everything. I mean, we covered just about everything I can think of, starting from who is God, all the way up to the more Catholic specific things like Mary and the saints and things like that. And it was a very, really fruitful conversation always. And I always came out of it with questions and with answers as well, and it just really helped me deepen my faith more and really understand, I guess, what I was getting myself into, and also just see Christ in the faith in such a well-rounded way. It was really, really awesome. I'm gonna miss the classes, honestly. It was a great thing to do on Thursday nights. I told James if he ever does any Zoom sessions, he needs to give me the link, because I might need to join. Something I've always struggled with is the spiritual side of faith. I'm just such a logical, analytical, right brain, I think, thinker. And so going through that definitely helped that. And I think that when I got confirmed, it was the most undescribable experience. I think that's the hardest part about this, because I'm trying to find the words to describe it and it just isn't. But really being sure and being able to receive those graces, receive the Eucharist for the first time, it really did. I'm still the same person, right? But I feel so much more connected to Christ. I feel so much more ready to take on whatever's coming in my life and stay strong in my faith. I think if anything, the biggest change has just been feeling a lot more grounded and strong in my faith, especially when temptations come or challenging situations arise, feeling prepared. The biggest surprise for me is that the core kind of fundamental teachings of the church, I came into Ministry of the Baptized with a pretty good basic understanding of like the Eucharist and things like that, the papacy, all of those like kind of big key differences between Catholics and Protestants. I came in with that, and I honestly was pretty okay with it. The things that were honestly the most not scary to me, but just different for me, was things like praying to saints, or having your relationship with Mary and things like that. And I think the biggest surprise for me was that I know that you don't necessarily have to engage in that sort of prayer to like practice your faith, though it's obviously encouraged. I know that it's not like something that's required, like going to mass every Sunday, right? But the biggest surprise was that as I got deeper in my faith, turning to areas of our faith like that actually came natural, and I found a lot of growth from it. So that's something I'm still kind of exploring, but I would say that has been the biggest surprise of it. It was kind of something in my head. I was like, am I ever going to get this urge to pray to Mary? I don't know. But now I do all the time. So I think that that's been the biggest surprise. And also as well, like with the rosary and things like that, I've gotten really just into spiritual things like that. And I would say the biggest challenge by far was just the life changes that comes with committing yourself to Christ, especially in the Catholic Church. I think the biggest difference is that the church, I feel like the church kind of holds me accountable almost a little bit. The structure of it I really like, and that, like if you commit a mortal sin, you can't receive the graces of the Eucharist at Mass or things like that. And those aren't necessarily rules because, like God doesn't like us or something. Like they're just sort of practices in there that for me kind of help me keep me accountable and help me push myself even further to become a better Christian. So from that, I think the hardest part is actually making serious life changes in my life, and changes of friendships, changes in relationships, changes in what I like to do for fun and what I don't like to do for fun. I've definitely I know there's a lot in scripture talking about how, when you truly commit yourself to Christ, you become a whole new person and you're reborn. And I felt that, and it's been the most beautiful and positive experience ever. But it's also been really hard. And the changes in my life that have came from becoming Catholic are so beautiful, and very strong learning and challenging experiences as well. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. But yeah, I would say that's been the biggest challenge. And I have been really excited for what God has in store for me and how I can spread his word. I'm going into finance, and I think that is, especially New York City, is an industry where the gospel could definitely be shared. And I've been really excited for whatever opportunity I have, whether that's maybe potentially helping with formation of faith one day, helping people who have been in a situation like me, getting connected to other Catholics within the city. I actually, funnily enough, I was, again, a lot of prayer about this, really stressed out. And a couple days later, a girl had reached out to me on Instagram that saw I was following a Catholic, New York City Catholic Instagram page, and reached out to me because she was moving as well and saw I was following that. So it just all goes to show like how hard God is working in our lives to answer those prayers and help us feel supported. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's scary, but it's also, I have so many paths I can go with my faith that I just feel very blessed to have this new experience coming very soon. So yes, I think the first piece of advice is that it is like your personal journey, and something that has helped me exponentially is having a positive Catholic influence in my life that I can ask questions to, because I think the Catholic Church is so beautiful because it has an answer to everything, and there are so many teachings, and it's so beautiful for that. But I think for a new Catholic or a new person interested in the faith, it could be a little bit intimidating. So having that person in your life that you can go to, even if you think the question's a little silly, just having someone that will answer and help you, I think is the number one thing. And there's so many ways you can find that if you don't have someone. I met all of these people because I talked to a priest here at St. Tom's, and Father Peter connected me to other seniors that were Catholic that could help me. So if you don't have that person in your life, please seek it out, because I would not have been where I was today without that person pushing me and helping to hold me accountable. The second piece of advice I would say is to just keep chasing after God. Again, I've really struggled in the past, like really deepening my spiritual side of my relationship with him and continuing to pursue him and asking him how you can pursue him better, or how to God, I really want to deepen this relationship. I just don't know how, especially for someone that's newly Catholic, or maybe just newly kind of reconverting into their faith and growing in their faith. I would say always ask for that. And then just finally, especially within the Catholic Church, is spending a lot of time really discerning the sacraments and the core teaching of the church, because, looking at the evidence for them and praying on them and thinking about them was what helped me really understand and see everything for what it is. And I think some of them are, the Eucharist is a very complicated thing even the Trinity, right? Like a lot of our things that we believe as Christians and Catholics are hard to understand. And so recognizing that and taking the time and seeking that out, I think can also help deepen your faith in understanding the church. And then of course, getting involved with OCIA, even if you go for one class, like just to see how it is. It's a super welcoming environment, and I've learned a lot from it.